Millennial dads are spending 3 times as much time with their kids than their fathers spent with them. Back in 1982, 43% of fathers admitted they'd never changed a diaper. Today, that number is down to about 3%. Haha. I made it a point to change my kids' very first diapers at the hospital. Kinda symbolic thing, but I was like, I can do this. Had no idea they poo-pooed her the first couple days though. Funny sad story, when my oldest was about 5, we got recruited to join Indian Guides at her school. In the US, it's a program started in the 50s to get dads spending more time with their kids, and really probably a way to monetize the campsites in the winter. So 3 campouts a year, the dads got way into it, food, good cocktails around the fire when the kiddos crashed, horseback riding, canoes, hiking. Those campouts were bigger than Christmas for our kids. So with 2 girls and a boy, and one graduating to the more hardcore camping group, I ended up doing 9 campouts every school year. So we put flyers in the school papers, wanted to give every dad a shot at it. I got a call from a mom, please call my husband, he has to do this. I call the dude, explain what we're doing, love you to join us, your kids will love it. That's ridiculous. You think I can pack in a whole weekend fooling around camping with my kids? I basically thought, A, we probably don't want you anyway, and B, let's see what kind of nursing home your kids put you in someday. My kids are now 27, 28 and 31. They were all home for Christmas and it was awesome. We spent so much time together. They had lists of the meals I needed to cook, invited kids I've known for decades. I finally built a legit stone fire pit and we spent hours a night around the fire. You get that from really loving your kids and making them a priority. You really can't fake it or phone it in. But I still feel like the luckiest bastard on earth. Millennial dads wish their fathers spent more time with them. That's why I spend time with my kids. My dad just left for work every day and came home tired every night to watch the Weather Channel. He was a great dad, but not a very attentive one. Same here. My dad showed love by working hard and sacrificing himself for the family. I just wish he had been able to be there and enjoy the quiet moments a bit more. I worked hard in my 20s to structure my 30s around family and not job. I have no regrets even if it costs me money in the long run. After moving and discussing with my wife how much I hated my new job, we decided I could quit and watch the kids instead of them going to daycare. It has been some of the best time in my life getting to play with my kids every day instead of being burnt out from work when I get home. It's an opportunity I thank my wife for as often as I can because my father was always on business trips and always tired. My Phil is a great guy but would often call me MR Mom when he saw me giving our first kid, his first grandkid, a bottle. Despite having 3 kids he had never changed a diaper either. He would never admit it but I think he feels a little embarrassed by his lack of baby knowledge to be honest. He just done what was the norm when he was younger but I think after seeing me with my kids he kinda thought I could have done that too. My wife and I moved to a new state when our son was 1½ and I took a year off to be a stay-at-home dad. It was an amazing, though stressful, experience, but I would run into the occasional momsplainer who would try to walk me through the basics of watching a kiddo at the park. This backs up a lot of what I've observed anecdotally. Ever since people my age, Gen X, and younger have started having kids, dads have noted that people from older generations want to give them some kind of medal just for spending time with their kids. Are you on babysitting duty? No, they were my own kids, helping out mom today, are we? Why would I ever not be? TV and movies haven't caught up to the new reality, either. See the still common cliche of oh no, dad's been left alone with the kids. With ensuing wackiness disaster. That babysitting one pisses me off so bad. Also, until very recently Amazon Family was called Amazon Mom in the US but Amazon Family in most of the rest of the world. I'm a male teacher. I took a 9-month leave of absence to stay home with my infant daughter. The amount of looks and what I saw as unnecessary praise from the older generations as I was out in public was ridiculous. I had people ask me if my wife passed away or would say, oh, you're doing a mother's job. I was proud to stay home with my daughter, and I'd do it again if I had the chance. I recently thought about this from a bit of an observer perspective. I was raised by a single mother and other kids would often ask me if I'm not sad about not having a dad. Which I wasn't since he was never in the picture. How would I even know what I'm missing? The answer to which should be because I saw other kids interact with their dads. But I didn't really. I would spend a fair amount of time hanging out at the places of my friends, and I didn't even meet some of their fathers ever, and when I did it was usually just a short greeting followed by them watching TV and us kids not being allowed to disturb dad because he is tired from work. Like my dad always said, keep it down, I'm trying to watch TV. Are millennials killing the shitty dad industry? Are millennials killing the heartwarming movie where dad learns to spend less time at work and more time with family industry? Cats in the Cradle is a great song, and millennials are killing any chance of creating good absent father-centric music. I wonder how much of it can be explained simply by necessity. I know a lot of shitty dads my age, but they spend a lot of time with their kids, well, probably more than their fathers spent with them anyway. A lot more women are working, and choosing to have children and a career. Guess what? If you and your spouse both have jobs, there's no stay-at-home wife or husband. You either end up having other people watch them, babysitters or daycare, or you arrange your schedules such that one of you is available to watch the kids. Like I said, I know some shitty dads my age, but they spend a lot of time with their kids because their wives work, get tired from work, and have lives too. No amount of dollars can buy an hour of time with your father, and that is reflecting in the up-and-coming generation of dads. I just phoned my dad to ask if I gave him $100 would he spend an hour with me. He said, "Why are you offering me dollars? We're not even American, you fucking idiot. I'm a first-generation Asian American, Japanese, and never really interacted with my parents like how my friends interact with their parents. I think being a daughter doesn't help since girls are lower on the totem pole in our culture. I've never said or heard I love you to my parents. Even saying thank you to each other isn't something we ever say. I honestly think all I am is a baby maker in my parents' eyes. I didn't spend a lot of time with my dad or mom growing up. I think I confided in my hobbies and online strangers than my parents. My dad never asked me how's your day or how do you feel. Not once in my life. He doesn't know my ambitions or what my passions are apart from the obvious ones that everybody around me know. He is not a bad person, but he is clueless about the emotional needs a father should provide. Goddamn millennials and their attentive parenting. Can confirm. My husband did all of bathing, changing, nail trimming duties the first few months while I was being a delirious milk factory. 2 years later he is the one who reads to our kid every night for 20-30 minutes, cooks her favorite meals, and takes her to playground on weekends. He can do everything if I were to leave house for any amount of time. This is also cultural. I have a friend in her 40s, who is also a Russian immigrant in the US. The other day she asked me to tell my husband to babysit our kid, so her and I can hang out. I didn't even try to explain it to her that dads don't babysit their kids. Being a millennial with kids, I can attest to this. I'm super involved with my kids and love spending time with them. My parents had very little to do with my upbringing. During my early years it was my grandpa, and once I was in school, my brother and I had to fend for ourselves. Both parents were there, but absent. That's great. Now if only we could get that 4-day work week so we can spend extra time with the kids and clean out the gutters. Incidentally, 3% of fathers do not have hands or arms. Wow, 43% of fathers never changed a diaper in 1982. I guess this is why there's a lack of baby changing stations in men's rooms in a bunch of places. There was a news story a few years ago where one male celebrity went out to dinner at a fancy restaurant, and had to enter the ladies' room to change his baby's diaper, because there wasn't a changing station in the men's room, and he didn't want his wife to always be the one changing the diaper. Given that 43% number, it suddenly makes a lot more sense why there wouldn't be changing stations in a lot of places. I work 11 minutes from home and try to spend as much time with my 2- and 4-year-old daughters as possible. I've skipped promotions so I don't live in an airplane, but we do fine. Changed thousands of diapers, some of them spectacularly explosive. Pretty much do everything my wife does except some of the more complex hairstyles, though I'm learning. I just figured it was part of being a good partner, and I'm biased, but my princesses are both awesome little girls like their mom. My dad spent most of his time at the office away from my brother and I when we grew up in the 90s. He passed suddenly in 2018. I realized then that a job will never hug you to sleep, and nobody gets to their deathbed saying I wish I spent more time at work. Yup. I'm a much better dad than my dad ever was in the 80s and 90s, not to mention the affair and subsequent divorce when I was around 10. Granted, My wife and I both have to work, and growing up my mom stayed at home while dad worked. But I have to assume he spent a lot more time working late and networking than he really needed to. To him, networking probably meant getting drunk with other businessmen in town, and perhaps doing blow as well. It was the 80s. He was loving and kind of around. But he was also absent in a big way. Being an active father is cool. This could also be partly attributed to the number of people who feel empowered not to have kids. I feel a lot of people who didn't want kids went ahead and had them because it's the societal norm. Therefore you had more parents who, well, not to sugarcoat it, didn't want to be parents. I just checked with my mom. My dad died in the early 90s, and she doesn't think he ever changed a nappy, despite being a very involved dad. I was born in 81, my sister in 83. She tried to excuse this by saying that she used the old-fashioned reusable nappies, which are more complicated than disposables. I countered by saying he was an engineer. I think he could have worked out how to put on a nappy if he'd wanted to. I'm so glad things are changing.